What happens when a beloved Southern comedian gets pushed too far on live television? The answer involves one of the most shocking moments in late-night history, and it all started so innocently. Before we get into this wild story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us what you think about what went down. Trust me, you are going to want to hear how this unfolds. Leanne Morgan walked onto the set of The Tonight Show to massive applause. The audience was packed with fans who had been following her comedy career for years, and the energy in the room was electric. Jimmy Fallon greeted her with his trademark enthusiasm, arms spread wide as she made her way to the guest chair. "Leanne Morgan, everybody," Jimmy said, clapping along with the audience. "It is so good to have you here. I have been watching your specials, and I have got to say, you are one of the funniest people working today." Leanne smiled warmly, settling into her seat. "Well, thank you, Jimmy. That is sweet of you to say. I'm just happy to be here. So your new tour is selling out everywhere," Jimmy continued, leaning forward. "What is it like going from performing in small comedy clubs to these massive theaters?" Leanne laughed. "You know, it is surreal. I remember doing shows where there were maybe 12 people in the audience and half of them were related to me. Now I walk out and there are thousands of people and I keep thinking, did y'all mean to buy tickets to my show or is there some mix-up?" The audience laughed and Jimmy grinned. "That is amazing though. And your comedy, it is so relatable. You talk about marriage, kids getting older. Where does all that material come from?" "Well, I have been married for over 30 years. Leanne said, "I have got 3 kids and let me tell you, they give me plenty of material. My husband, he is the most patient man on the planet. He has to be living with me." Jimmy nodded enthusiastically. "I love that. And you are from Tennessee, right? Small town." "Yes, sir, born and raised, population about 2,000 people, and that is counting the dogs." The audience chuckled and Jimmy seemed to be enjoying the conversation. But then something shifted. His tone changed slightly, becoming more probing. "So Leanne, I have got to ask," Jimmy said, and there was something in his voice that made Leanne sit up a little straighter. "Your comedy is very wholesome, very family-friendly. Do you ever feel like you are limiting yourself by staying in that lane? I mean, some of the biggest comedians out there, they push boundaries, they go dark. Do you ever think about doing that?" Leanne's smile flickered for just a moment. "Well, Jimmy, I do not think I am limiting myself at all. I am telling stories that are true to who I am. That is what connects with people. They see themselves in my stories." Right, Jimmy said. But he did not seem satisfied with the answer. "But do not you think comedy is about pushing buttons, making people uncomfortable sometimes?" "I think comedy is about making people laugh," Leanne responded, her southern accent becoming a touch more pronounced. "And there are a million ways to do that. I do not need to curse or shock people to get a laugh. My life is funny enough as it is." Jimmy leaned back, a strange smile on his face. "Okay, but be honest. Do you think clean comedy is as respected as edgier comedy? Because I feel like when people think of the greats, they think of people who took risks, who said things that made people gasp." The audience had gone quieter now, sensing the shift in energy. Leanne's expression hardened slightly. "Jimmy, I have sold out Radio City Music Hall," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I have got Netflix specials that millions of people have watched. I think I am doing just fine without needing to make people gasp." Respect comes from connecting with your audience, not from trying to prove how edgy you can be. Sure, Jimmy said, holding up his hands. "I'm just saying there is a difference between being funny and being safe, right? And maybe your comedy is a little too safe." The room went completely silent. Leanne stared at Jimmy for a long moment and you could see the wheels turning in her head. The smile had vanished from her face entirely. "Too safe," she repeated slowly. "Jimmy, are you seriously sitting here telling me that my comedy is too safe?" "I'm just asking a question," Jimmy said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. "I mean, you have to admit you play it pretty safe up there." Leanne leaned forward, her eyes locked on his. "Let me tell you something about safe, Jimmy. I have spent years perfecting my craft. I have worked rooms where people did not want to laugh, where they sat there with their arms crossed, waiting for me to fail. And I won them over every single time, not by being shocking but by being real. So do not sit there and tell me I am playing it safe when you do not know the first thing about what it takes to do what I do." Jimmy shifted uncomfortably. Okay, I think maybe we are getting a little off track here. No, I think we are right on track. Leanne shot back. You brought this up. You wanted to have this conversation, so let us have it. Jimmy tried to laugh it off, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The band members were exchanging glances and the audience sat frozen, unsure if this was part of some elaborate bit or if they were witnessing an actual argument unfold in real time. Look, Leanne, Jimmy said, attempting to regain control of the interview. I did not mean to offend you. I am just saying that in comedy, sometimes you have to take risks to stay relevant. The landscape is changing. Audiences want different things now. Leanne's eyebrows shot up. Stay relevant, Jimmy. My last special came out 6 months ago and it is still in the top 10 on Netflix. I have got a tour that is adding dates because of demand. What part of that sounds irrelevant to you? That is not what I am saying, Jimmy protested, his smile looking more forced by the second. I am talking about artistic growth, evolution. Like, do you ever challenge yourself to go outside your comfort zone? My comfort zone, Leanne repeated, and there was an edge to her voice now that made even Jimmy flinch slightly. You think talking about real life, about being a wife and a mother, and getting older in a world that does not value women over a certain age, you think that is a comfort zone? You think that is easy? Jimmy opened his mouth to respond, but Leanne was not finished. Let me tell you what is actually safe, Jimmy. Safe is sitting behind this desk every night with a team of writers handing you jokes. Safe is doing the same monologue format that has been done for 60 years. Safe is never having to stand on a stage by yourself with nothing but a microphone and your own material, wondering if people are going to laugh or just stare at you. The audience was completely silent now. Some people in the front row had their hands over their mouths. This was not going the way anyone expected. Jimmy's face had turned red. Okay, I think that is a little unfair. I work very hard on this show. I am sure you do, Leanne said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. But do not come at me talking about playing it safe when you have never had to do what I do. Stand-up comedy is not safe. It is terrifying every single night. All right, Jimmy said, trying to steer the conversation anywhere else. Let us talk about something else. Your family, tell us about your kids. But Leanne was not letting him off the hook that easily. No, Jimmy, you started this conversation. You wanted to talk about my comedy not being edgy enough, so let us finish it. Jimmy looked desperately at his producer off stage, but there was no rescue coming. He was stuck. I just think, he said carefully, that maybe you are limiting your audience by keeping things so wholesome. There are people who might not give your comedy a chance because they think it is going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Leanne laughed, but there was no humor in it. Sunshine and rainbows. Jimmy, have you actually watched any of my specials, or are you just going off whatever your staff told you in the pre-in? Jimmy's silence was answer enough. That is what I thought, Leanne said, shaking her head. You know what is really going on here. You do not respect what I do. You think because I do not drop F-bombs every other sentence because I do.